Welcome back to my channel. You already know it's your boy Hood Diggity the Rock Reactor back with another video. Yes, sir. Before I proceed, let me know where you tapping in from. Let me know what country, what city, what mountain, what hill, what cave, what island, what planet, what universe. Let me know where you at. Represent your hood. Yes, sir. They had the UN General Assembly and a lot of presidents spoke. My president, for example, spoke about. I didn't really see the whole thing. I caught whatever I had time to watch. I caught some of them. Caught a little bit of Trump, and my president, for example, here in the Dominican Republic, he spoke about the situation that's going on in Haiti, trying to get help for Haiti to maybe clean up a little bit here. And the fact that it was affecting the region. Now, I did not hear President Zelensky, and I wanted to, and I'm going to now. Now, this is a portion. I believe it's not the whole thing, because as soon as I press play, it's like in the middle. But I do want to check it out, and I do want to address it. By the way, a plethora of love to my Ukraine. A world of peace to my Ukraine. As I stand with God, I stand with Ukraine. Yes, sir. I almost forgot that one. So like I was saying, I wanted to check it out. I want to talk about it. I want to conversate. I want to analyze it. I want you guys to help me out. Let me know what's going on. As I understand, President Zelensky has a high popularity margin in his country. As I understand, the citizens of Ukraine are, for the most part, satisfied with his work so far. I think he's been brave, man. He could have just ran out. He could have just given up. He could have sold the country out and just left. I'm sure him and his family would have been good. Another president would have done that. And I'm going to be honest with you, specifically in my region, Latin America, most of our politicians are not really up to par. There's a corruption cancer in Latin America. Corruption cancer. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I want to get into President Zelensky's, Ukraine President Zelensky's addresses, UN General Assembly. Let's get right to it, guys. And before we do, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on the description. Let's get right to it, guys. Let's analyze and let's conversate, analyze, and talk about it.
For decades, just statements and statements. And even everything happening in Gaza remains without a way out. Even now, Syria, after all the changes, still has to appeal to the world to ease the sanctions that are choking its economy. It has to ask and wait. Syria deserves stronger support from the international community. And as Russia's war against my country goes on, people are still dying every week. Yet there is no ceasefire because Russia refuses. Russia abducted thousands of Ukrainian children, and we have brought some of them back. And I thank everyone who's helped. But how long will it take to bring all of them home? Childhood slips away faster than adults are able to help. Look at Israel. Nearly 2 years have passed, and hostages still haven't been freed. They must be freed, but even that still hasn't happened. And for years, there have been no real answers to other threats, either chemical weapons and famine used as a weapon. Last year, at this assembly, I warned the world about the risk of radiation disasters, especially due to Russia's occupations of our Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe, but nothing's changed. Nothing's. And yesterday, the plant went into blackout again, and Russia hasn't stopped shelling even in areas near a nuclear facility. And because of international institutions are too weak, this madness continues.
Guys, I'm gonna dare say something, and please let me know if you want to criticize me, because I'm speaking based on what I have seen so far. Is that I'm not gonna say Russia. I'm gonna say the Kremlin. Like, the Kremlin doesn't care, or the Russian government, the active Russian government, the current active Russian government does not care about their citizens as long as they meet their objective. This nuclear plant business, they don't care about the radiation that it may spread. They don't really care about their citizens. They don't care as long as they're at war. Like right now, right now, I simply do not understand why they don't stop the war. Even though they're hurting themselves, they're hurting their citizens. I'm sure if you ask the majority of Russian citizens, including the soldiers, would like this war to stop. And there's only like a little bunch that wants the war to continue. And I believe, and it's crazy because the people that want the war to continue are not the people on the battlefield.
Even being part of a long-standing military alliance doesn't automatically mean you are safe. Just recently, 19 simple Russian drones violated Polish airspace, and only 4 were shut down. Luckily, they were not shaheeds or even worse. Otherwise, the results would have been horrific. Estonia had to call a UN Security Council meeting for the first time in history because Russian fighter jets deliberately entered its airspace. Moldova is defending itself again from Russia's interference. We have helping Moldova, and Russia's trying to do to Moldova what Iran once did to Lebanon. And the global response, again, not enough. We have already lost Georgia in Europe. Human rights and the European nature of the state system are only shrinking there. Georgia is dependent on Russia. And for many, many years, Belarus has also been moving toward dependence on Russia. Europe cannot afford to lose Moldova too. It's important to remember how the world once ignored the need to help Georgia after Russia's attack, and how the moment was missed with Belarus. How Moldova must not be lost. And for Europe, supporting Moldova's stability is not costly, but failing to do so will come at a much higher price. That's why the EU needs to help Moldova now with funding and energy support, not just words or political gestures. We must not forget about protecting the rights of people and the right.
So basically what I understand is that Russia's objective is to eat up all the little countries, all the smaller countries around them, to basically expand their power, expand their territory, expand their nation. Like, come on, man. You're the biggest country in the world as far as territory. You could be, I think your country's like bigger than some continents. So I don't understand. And then they're doing that, but at what cost? They're not even thinking about the cost of trying to do that. And now they're poking NATO. They're poking NATO. Does Russia really want a world war? I don't even understand. Even Russia's allies should be like, listen, we need to stop this. Because they're not taking into, they have no regards for human life. They don't care about the human casualties, specifically the ones, their own citizens. I just don't get it, guys.
Of nations in regions where these rights are under threat. The UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights must apply everywhere. But the Taliban in Afghanistan dragged a whole country back into the dark ages. Cartels in some Latin America countries are more powerful than the government there. This is all about collapse of international law and the weakness of the international institutions. And so it's about the rise of weapons. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, yesterday President Trump stood right here in this hall, and God saved him from a murder attempt during the campaign. A shot was fired from a rifle, and just a fraction of an inch saved his life. Just days ago, President, along with...
And may I add that incident just skyrocketed Trump's popularity and made Trump look like a hero. That incident made Trump look like, man, my eyes are getting watery. That incident made Trump look like a gangster. That incident, I just remember that incident just skyrocketed Trump's popularity. Whoever did that, and that shows you that there is a God protecting whoever it feels it needs to protect. Now, that person or whoever did that whole incident just benefited Trump so much that whoever did it, it's like they did him a favor.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans honored the memory of Charlie Kirk. Sadly, his life was cut short by a bullet. Once again, violence with a rifle in hand. We also mourn the Ukrainian woman, Irina Zarutska. She was brutally killed with a knife here in America, the very country where she was seeking refuge from Russia's war. And almost every day, when we open the news, we see headlines about violent attacks happening all around the world. Most of it is done with weapons. People are already used to, but weapons are evolving faster than our ability to defend ourselves. Now, there are tens of thousands of people who know how to professionally kill using drones. Stopping that kind of attack is harder than stopping any gun, knife, or bomb. This is what Russia has brought with its war. It used to be that only the strongest countries could use drones because they were expensive and complex. Now even simple drones can fly thousands of kilometers. War tech doesn't care about geography anymore. It's now reshaping it. Just recently, airports in Europe had to shut down because of drones. Authorities couldn't even say what kind of drones they were, who sent them, or from where. Last week, North Korea announced the test of a tactical strike drone. That means even countries with limited resources can now build weapons that are dangerous to their neighbors. Ukraine and nations like Saudi Arabia know all too well how dangerous Iranian attack drones are. But what happens when all the types of drones become available, even to small terrorist groups or cartels? The world moves too slowly to protect itself, and weapons move fast. Now companies are already working on drones that can shoot down other drones, and it's only a matter of time, not much, before drones are fighting drones, attacking critical infrastructure and targeting people all by themselves, fully autonomous and no human involved, except the few who control AI systems. Dear,
You know, guys, I like the fact that President Zelensky, President Zelensky has a war in his country. He has a war in his hands. He's going through a lot. He's at war. His country's in need of aid. He needs weapons. He needs this. He's going through a war. But he's addressing he's addressing the whole world situation. And that's commendable. He's even addressing the cartels. He's from the other side of the world, and he's addressing the world's problems. He's addressing the big picture. I commend that.
Leaders, we are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. And if there are no real security guarantees except friends and weapons, and if the world can't respond even to old threats, and if there is no strong platform for international security, will there be any place left on Earth that's still safe for people? We need global rules now for how AI can be used in weapons, and this is just as urgent as preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. We need to restore international cooperation, real working cooperation for peace and for security. A few years from now might already be too late. 10 years ago, war looked different, and no one imagined that cheap drones could create dead zones, areas stretching for dozens of kilometers where nothing moves, no vehicles, no life. People used to imagine that only after a nuclear strike. Now it's drawn reality. Mass-produced, simple drones, and without AI yet. Ukraine doesn't have the big fat missiles dictators love to show off in parades, but we do have drones that can fly up to 2,000-3,000 kilometers. We had no choice but to build them to protect our right to life.
And it seems like they also, because you could have a lot of weapons, but it seems like they also, Ukraine has soldiers with big cojones. If you guys know what I mean, with big nuts. They got big fat ones. They're very brave. That's important because you can have all the weapons you want, and if you don't have soldiers with well put cojones on them, you don't really have much.
Control over the sea used to depend on having a big navy. Ukraine doesn't have a big fleet, but we succeeded. In the Black Sea, we pushed what's left of the Russian navy into remote base. And we did it with sea drones. That's how we protect our ports and maritime trade routes, because Russia has left us no other choice. And our spiderweb operation, when cheap drones destroyed or damaged dozens of expensive Russian strategic bombers, became a real example for special forces around the world of what new weapons can do to old systems. These very Russian bombers attacked our cities. And none of this would have happened if Putin had not started this full-scale aggression, full-scale war. And every year that this war goes on, weapons become even more deadly. And only Russia deserves to be blamed for this. Dear leaders, to protect lives, Ukraine builds underground schools and underground hospitals. To protect lives, we have to spend more on protecting power stations from drone and missile attacks than on building sports facilities or cultural infrastructure. Ukrainian farmers are learning how to protect their equipment from Russia's FPV drone strikes, and for them that challenge is far greater than climate change. Russia's war has put us in this situation, but do you have protection against similar threats? The facts are simple. Stopping this war now, and with it, the global arms race, is cheaper than building underground kindergartens or massive bunkers for critical infrastructure later. Stopping Putin now is cheaper than trying to protect every port and every ship from terrorists with sea drones.
You know, I'm glad President Zelensky, he's talking about tomorrow. He's looking at tomorrow. He's not looking at today. He's addressing tomorrow. He's addressing the solution as a whole. He's addressing tomorrow's solution. He's not addressing today's Band-Aid. He doesn't settle for a Band-Aid today. And I like that about him. I like that. Something else I wanted to say. I am so glad and I thank God that President Trump changed his stance on Zelensky on the Ukraine-Russia situation. I'm glad he changed his stance because at the beginning with that shit that happened at the White House and that scandal that happened at the White House and all this and that where he had words with the vice president, it doesn't look like it was looking good. It looked like that wasn't going to help him, and it looked like more that was in the side of Russia than in the side of Ukraine. That's what it kind of looked like. But I'm glad after a while he changed his stance. See, President Trump is gangster. And President Trump, he could flip the script on you in a heartbeat.
Stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So we must use everything we have together to force the aggressor to stop. And only then do we have a real chance that this arms race will not end in catastrophe for all of us. If it takes weapons to do it, if it takes pressure on Russia, then it must be done. And it must be done now. Otherwise, Putin will keep driving the war forward wider and deeper. And we told you before, Ukraine is only the first.
He said it from the beginning. And I like that. And I remember him saying this. He said that the war's not going to stop in Ukraine. They could have taken over Ukraine and it still wasn't going to stop. They were just going to move on. Because I believe Putin's objective or his goal is just to eat up all the country around him and as much country as he can get. He on some Hitler shit where Hitler was trying to invade everybody, and declaring war on everybody just to try to take over all those and spread his idealism everywhere. Putin has like the same goal.
And now Russian drones are already flying across Europe. And Russian operations are already spreading across countries. And Putin wants to continue this war by expanding it. And no one can feel safe right now. So first, we are now building a new security architecture for ourselves. More than 30 countries are already part of our coalition. And we are strengthening army, launching joint weapons production with partners, and defining financial commitments for defense in a way that could become a security model for any other nation. If security guarantees work for Ukraine, something more than just friends and weapons, it will mean that people were able to make national security not a privilege for a few nations, but a right for everyone. Second, we are ready to make our modern weapons become your modern security, your modern weapon. And we have decided to open up arms exports. And these are powerful systems tested in a real war when every international institution failed. And we are also ready to grow our defense production together with strong partners so that their protection is modern and reliable. You don't need to start this race from scratch. We're ready to share what has already proven itself in real defense. And third, many in the world are still relaxed. Still. But look at how many countries are here at this General Assembly. Countries that are at war, or just came out of war, or are trying to stop one, or openly getting ready for one. War has already reached too many people to pretend it has nothing to do with you. So it depends on you. Whether you help peace or continue trading with Russia and helping Russia to fund this war, it depends on you. Whether prisoners of war will be freed, whether abducted children will come home, whether hostages will be free. It depends on you what will define existence, war like now, or our joint strong actions as it should be. Yesterday we had a good meeting with President.
I like what he's saying, and what he's saying, he has a point. Whoever's helping Russia, whoever's aiding Russia, does not know or is not looking at the big picture and it's not looking at tomorrow. They're not looking at the fact that you may be arming your future enemy. You may be putting a gun in your enemy's hands, in your future enemy. You may be arming your own killer of tomorrow because, like he says, and it does look like that. Like he says, it's not just going to end in Ukraine. If you helping him, eventually that would fall onto you. You basically feeding a bigger a machine that's going to turn against you tomorrow.
And Trump. And I also spoke with many other strong leaders, and together we can change a lot. Of course, we are doing everything to make sure Europe truly helps. And of course, we count on the United States. I appreciate the support we are receiving. Yes, much depends on the G7 and G20, but in the end, peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it. Please join us in defending life and international law and order. People are waiting for action. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini!
Slava Ukraini! Slava Ukraini! That's right.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale. On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of Ukraine. The Assembly will hear an address by...
We stop it right there. Guys, I want to ask a question. Do you guys, and this is a wishful thinking question, do you guys think after the Ukrainian-Russian war, after Ukraine wins this war against Russia, that President Zelensky should be nominated for a Nobel Prize? And I'm not, and then I'm going to answer that question as to what my opinion is. Should he be nominated? I believe so. Of course, I believe so. Should it be after the Ukraine has won the war against Russia? The answer to that is there is never a winner in any war. Nobody ever wins in a war because there's always casualties on both sides, which there's no winner to that. Nobody wins. Everybody loses in a war. Everybody loses, especially with the casualties, because all these people that died during the war, what about their families? Their families are just, it's something, it's an eternal damage that's done. It's a generational damage that's caused. So I was only bullshitting. But yes, he should be nominated. I believe he's done a good job. I believe he's there fighting in the in the forefront. He's not just a Ukraine president. He's a soldier. And you could tell he's a soldier. But guys, what I think also on a global opinion is that we're headed down a path that there may be no turning back with all these wars and all these shit that's going on in this world. It's going to come to if we continue like this, there's not going to be any turning back. That's it. We're not going to be able to put the world back the way it was. We're moving so far from peace that we're not going to it's going to be impossible to find our way back to peace. It's going to be just impossible. That's just what I think. So guys, let me know what you think, man. Send me the comments. Let me know what you think. Like I said, my opinions, guys, are based on what I see, my perception, my perspective. I may be wrong. I may be ignorant. So school me. Let me know. I always read the comment. I always try to evaluate everybody's comments, everybody's opinions, because I don't know much. I don't have time to really focus on everything that's going on. That's why sometimes I read from the people that actually over there. My people's in Ukraine. Sometimes Russia even write comments. And I try to evaluate all of it. and try to use and try to come up with my own conclusion. So guys, you already know, man. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on the description. Love you, Ukraine. Slava Ukraine. Peace, love, and God bless.